Hi, everyone, and welcome. We are from Telia, and we're going to present you how we brought Telia closer to the correct version of the truth, and in the process, how we changed how people actually perceive the reporting process. My name is Martina, and I've been working in data analytics and business analytics for all my professional career. And regardless if it was for consultancy or in finance department or in BI department, I always find it very rewarding to show people that aha moment when they realize how much the relevant data can influence their decisions.
Yeah, and hi, my name is Ole. I've been working for Telia for the last 9 years, and I work as an analyst. And there's a lot of echo here. Can we reduce that? Okay. The last 2 to 3 years we have been working on the Snowflake platform. And for about the last year or so, on and off, we have been working on this Metrics Store setup. What really drives me as a person is that we have so much complicated data. If we can bring that alive out to our business, and also ensuring that this information actually gives value to our business. And I think this Metrics Store project actually does that because it helps us having clear definition of our KPIs, and it also brings bigger trust into our KPIs. So, yeah, Martina?
So, if you've ever been working with data analysis like me and Ole, then you definitely know the situation where people go around the business with 2 different versions of the same KPI. And you also understand 100% the frustration that it brings, right? And now, just imagine that there was a place where your users could go and they knew that they could retrieve from there all the KPIs that they need, all the metrics that they need, and what is even more important, that they could trust them. About a year ago, a head of the strategy department came to us, asking us for a report for C-level management, where they could follow up on the strategic KPIs. And of course, we could, approach that issue with just building something ad hoc. So 50 KPIs, it would be a pretty big app, and probably also kind of complicated one. But we knew that sooner or later it would clash, the numbers would clash with some other reports that would come from somewhere else. So we decided on a different approach. We decided that we're going to create, still having the same, that we're going to create a repository of the KPIs where we could define, very important, where we could store, govern, and retrieve the KPIs from. We decided to this vision. And we knew that if we could deliver on these requirements, then the project would be a success, and it would also have a very high adoption rate. Before I go to the process of how we actually went to that, I would like to tell you something about data evolution in most of the companies. Usually, companies start their reporting journey on the raw data, on the source data. So they have something in their platforms, they just kind of pull out. The data is not really of the high quality, it's not standardized, and so on. So very often, they move, of course, higher up to the data warehouse. Now, we have lots of data there. The data follows some kind of a process for ingestion. It's higher quality, it's lots of data. People get really excited, they start building the reports, they start building more and more insights. There are more and more data analysts around the organization. They start requesting more data, they start requesting more tables, more fields, and so on, and everything is just going great. Until suddenly it doesn't. And it doesn't because you have so many people working with the same type of queries, but everyone does it in its own way, right? And that's where you get this different sources of the truth that comes with a frustration. We're trying to find out why. Hello? Yeah. You start to wonder, why do you have two different numbers? Where does it come from? Which one is more correct, right? So more and more companies actually now find out that they maybe need additional layer on top of this. And this is where Metrics Store comes into place. So it's a verified repository of the metrics where we can define, govern, and store them. And of course, higher up this ladder you go, the biggest, the single chance for the single source of truth, where the companies need to put their reporting layer on. How did we actually execute it in Telia? First, we identified all the KPIs that were required in the business. Then we went out to the business, to different departments, set them together and asked them to agree on a business definition. So when we talk about sales, do we need also, for example, to account for all the returns or not? Once we had that, we translated the business definitions of each KPI into what we call the data definition. So basically, we created a script for exactly that KPI. And the following steps were relatively easy. We calculated those KPIs on the desired granularity and store them. Now our users can actually go in, pick any KPI that they want, included in the report, and we know that everybody's working with the same metrics. We are a pretty small department. It was just me and Ole actively working on this, so we needed to get to a very simple model. And how we did it is kind of inverted Snowflake, where we have only one dimension table that holds all dimensions in the required granularity. Around that one, we have our KPI tables. So each KPI is stored in its own table in the desired granularity. And of course, it's linked to this central table with the key. So we can say, okay, we have sales in January for mobile voice subscription that were sold in Telia stores. So the values are in the KPI tables, and all these dimension values are coming from the central table. Ole?
Here. Thank you, Martina. I think the next slide will show us how we actually did it. First of all, here is a presentation of our platform. We call our data warehouse a data model, but it's actually just a super simple traditional data warehouse where you to the left have a lot of sources. We need some tools to ingest these source data into a staging area. And from that area, we go into our Snowflake environment. And here in the Snowflake environment, there's a lot of different areas, but the most important areas for us is the analytical area. In this area, we have a lot of very broad APTs, but we also have star schema. What we did then was that we, not part of the data warehouse, but like an integrated appendix, we make this metric store. So all the definitions, the business rules are stored in the warehouse, but then our KPI definitions are stored in these metric stores. We are using Data IQ as the ETL flow here, and T2Every have helped us all the way by building the data warehouse and maintaining it, still maintaining it so far. So they go from the sources up to the analytical tables. When we have these definitions of our metric stores in place, they will actually be can be used everywhere in the business for reporting or for visualization. So why have Snowflake been such a good thing for us in this process? First of all, I would say Snowflake is super fast compared to any other platform I've been working on. And it's really nice that if you have a big job, you can actually get it done. Scalability have also been important for us, because when you start to build a new data warehouse, you have a little data, you keep adding data, but you also need to process these data within the same time frame. So we have to be able to scale our storage, but also be able to scale our CPU. Snowflake also holds two nice features that we are using. The role feature, which allows us to limit access to data. So not all users need access to all data. So by limiting access to data, we actually apply one of our GDPR rules. If you end up with a very big task that takes a very long time, it's very nice that you actually can have this scalability on your warehouse. So you can just choose a faster warehouse and get the job done within the time frame. And the last bullet here is actually that we asked in our team, what do you really think was good with this Snowflake installation? And the first thing is that they really like that it's browser-based, because then you can go into your Visual Code, where we have the GitHub integration, and maintain our code in there with version control and all that kind of stuff. Snowflake also have a lot of very nice OLAP functions. And I think even Snowflake's OLAP functions is a little bit better than the OLAP function I've been used to work with, because they have this ability to have this qualify in their statement, and that will reduce records and give a more smooth SQL. We've come from a lot of different SQL language, and the integration or the transformation from each of these different SQL languages seem to be quite smooth. There's also the possibility in your select statement, if you have a very complicated thing, you can give it an alias. And that alias can actually be used in the same SQL statement further down or even down in your where clause. And that simplifies your code a lot. And of course, we like the Python integration. So this is a structural overview of what we actually did. We still have in the bottom layer, we have the data model, which is supported by Tieto. And as I said before, here we have all the general business rules. What we did then was we added two layers. We added a detailed layer, which is a view, where all the KPI definitions are stored. And that could, for instance, be if you have a KPI with sales per month, then in the detail layer, all sales for all months will be there. Then we added another layer on top of that, which is also a view layer, where we have the aggregation. So we access KPIs in this layer, it will be on the aggregated level. But the nice thing here is that there's a relationship between the top layer and the bottom layer, which actually allows us to make drill downs for all purposes if we need to investigate something. And on top of this, we have our visualization, which in Telia Denmark is done on ClickSense. And as you can see to the right, my department is responsible for the 3 top layers. So, of course, we need to capture data. And of course, we prefer to capture them automated. But all actuals that we can capture automated will be done that way. But we will not be able to add views on all data just because the data is not present in the warehouse. But when we have the ability to add the views, of course we do that, and then we can implement the KPI definitions in these views. And it actually makes us able to have some kind of governance about it, because all the views are stored in the same way. GA2Every helped us with a Python script, so when we need to deploy a new version of our KPIs, there are certain rules that have to be met. Like there needs to be a description, and there needs to be a review of the code and GDPR purpose and all that kind of stuff. And again, by having it all in one place, it's very easy to search for a definition if you need to figure out what is the definition of this KPI. In the perfect world, we will have all data in that warehouse. But that's not going to happen for us ever, I think. So we will need to have the possibility to enter actuals as well. And that solution has been done by having Excel sheet on TeamShare. And on these Excel sheets, the only person that can update these sheets is the KPI business data responsible person for that KPI. And they can only update the fields that's for the given dimensions. As it is for now, all targets are needed to be entered manually. Today we have the possibilities to work on the current dimensions. Of course, we have a time dimension. For the strategical KPIs, which actually initiated this, we have a monthly dimension. We have a brand dimension. Telia is actually consisting of 3 brands, so we need that as well. When we have the dealer dimension, so we can see from which channel, for instance, a sale was coming. Technology is just what kind of product it is, if it's a mobile subscription and so on. The analytical type, we only have 2, and that's for actuals and for targets. So this is kind of the process, how it's going. As I said before, we have for each KPI, we are concatenating the actuals and the targets. That gives us a lot of KPIs tables, and around that in the middle, we have the big dimension table where all the available dimensions are present. So this is how the KPIs actually looks like. As you can see up in the top with the red mark, each KPI have a unique number, and that's quite essential, because with this number you can always go back and find the definition of each KPI. This brand position KPI shows that you have 13% in September. In August, the month before, we were on 12%, and that is actually an increase, so an up arrow, and it's a good increase, so it's green. If it had been in a increase in churn, which is not that good, the up arrow would have been red. And then, of course, we need to compare all these actuals with targets, and the target for this month was 13% as well, so therefore we have a green dot for that. You should imagine that there are a lot of KPIs on this sheet, so you can pick and see whatever you want. But due to restrictions, I was only allowed to show that because some of our other KPIs are confidential. So if you want to drill down on that KPI, you click on it, and to the right, you can see what you will get. There will be pillars for each month, where you can see the trend, but there will also be black dots for the target, so you can also see the trend and see if you are online or on target. I can say we have, for now, 68 working KPIs, and we're trying to expand that as well. So this is the first version of our Metrics Store setup, and we already identified, together with the business, that of course we need to have further functionalities. So we like to expand the number of our dimensions. For instance, we have the channel dimensions, what we call dealer, but we would like to go a step down to have the sales agent as a dimension as well. today we only have one time dimension in use, and that's the monthly dimension. But we really love and need to add further dimensions. We probably need a quarterly, a half-year lead dimension. But we're definitely going to need a date dimension as well. When we have that date dimension in place, it will be quite easy to have the next bullet. So we would like to have target on one dimension, for instance, on monthly. And then we have the actuals on day dimension. And then we'll be able to stack all the date dimensions up and giving a trend line to see if we are actually going to hit the target at the end of the month. And of course, we want to increase the automated number of KPIs. So, Martina, here you go.
Thank you. So, what was the main learning from this project that we have? It is to realize how much the trust in the data and the trust in your reporting increases when you have a standardized approach to it. When our users knew about this structured approach, it actually ensured a really good sponsorship from the C-level in the organization. That consequently led to really high adoption all across different departments on different levels and so on. And because the structure is so simple and so robust, it's also very easy to basically open it to all the users for self-service, because we know that whoever picks the KPIs from the Metrics Store, they will all have the same number, and there's not going to be any issues about that. So the project has been a success, and I hope it kind of inspired you a bit, and maybe you're willing to try it as well in your organizations. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, we're ready.
Good. So again, we will have, as we had in previous sections, we have two runners on the side. Please raise your hand if you have a question, and then wait to ask the question until you have the mic in your hand. So please raise your hand for questions.
Oh no, no questions.
Okay, but then we're also going to be...
No, there is a question in the end.
Oh, okay, yes.
So my question is, who owns these metrics that you're defining, and if there is going to be a change in the metric, how does that workflow look like?
Yeah, so if the change in the metric is so big that it actually changes a calculation differently and the original metric is still required, then we will just create a new KPI. And this is how we expect this metric store would also grow and grow, right? That's also the purpose of it. If it's a small change, then again, we're going to get all the stakeholders sitting together and agree on it. So there is no way that it could be changed just because of somebody in organization requested. And also when we have it ready in our metric store, it always requires some verification also on the data side so that we are sure that it's correctly calculated as new. Yeah.
You can say that all KPIs are owned by a person in the business, so we cannot change anything unless this person in the business is part of it. And we will update the definition then.
Hello.
Hi.
A question regarding when you decided what you wanted to do, how long time did it take end to end where you are from today?
I think we have several iterations, and yes, Martina and me was working on it last, but actually there have been more of our team members involved that actually started this. So we got several versions because before we decided to have this version and the structure that we have now. And when we have, I will say that actually having the business going in and defining each KPIs was actually the most time-consuming part here. But it also helps us now because now we have, for each KPI, the business has agreed that this is the definition and there's nothing to talk about, and this is shown everywhere. I will say that if we have all the definitions in place and we should build it from scratch without these iterations, half a year perhaps.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.